Welcome back into Morning Drive. It is time now for Inside the Locker Room, a players-only discussion covering some of the biggest issues in the game. And of course, Rory McIlroy back with us. And one of the biggest issues that came up over the weekend was Patrick Reed and the penalty he incurred for moving sand. What was your opinion of what happened?
Yeah, so I think the live shot that you just showed before there isn't as incriminating as the slow-mo. I think it's hard because you try to give the player the benefit of the doubt, right? You know, he's getting there and he's trying to figure out what way to play the shot. Obviously, he's moved some sand, so it is a penalty. But, you know, I keep saying I don't think it would be a big deal if it wasn't Patrick Reed. And I think, you know, it's almost like it's a lot of people within the game, it's almost like a hobby to sort of kick him when he's down. And I've had great interactions with Patrick. I certainly don't think there was intent there. I mean, that shot right there does look bad. It's very hard for me not to think that, you know, he didn't feel what he was doing. It's a hard one. But again, I'd rather try to give someone the benefit of the doubt and just say, look, it was a mistake. You know, take your penalty, move on. And yeah, I mean, it's going to make things really difficult for him down in Australia this week.
Does it change your opinion that there was video from 2015 of him doing something similar?
I know, but it's almost like it's a obliviousness to it rather than actually anything intentful in terms of, you know, trying to get away with something. I think it's just his pre-shot routine nearly, and I mean, I don't know.
Hey.
It's, you know, it's not right. It obviously doesn't make it right what he did, but it's, you know, I just keep saying if it wasn't Patrick Reed and it was someone else, I think it would have not been as big a deal as it's been made out to be. But you know, it's a tough one. You never want to, you know, I would never want to think that a competitor is intentionally trying to improve a lie or so. It's a tough one, but you know, I think we could all be a little, you know, we could give him the benefit of the doubt one time or twice maybe, and then, you know, we can move on and you know, if he's learned his lesson and he doesn't do it again, I guess that's a good thing.
I think in my years of playing on tour, I saw with my own two eyes what I know was cheating without the camera. This is before all the cameras and PGA Tour Live and everything. I saw it one time, and it's such a rarity that that's why that label sticks with you. Do you think you've ever seen it with your own eyes? Anyone? Not naming names.
No. There's been things I've seen that have been questionable, for sure.
Sure.
But did you report the person?
No.
And I didn't report the person either. So it's almost, you know, we're in the wrong if we're not trying to protect the field as well. It's a very awkward position to be put in. You see something, do you say to an official? Do you say to the player? Do you, you know? It's
why is it so gray? Because I've found the same thing. I mean, there's instances in my career where I could have done more.
Yeah.
But it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
Why is it so uncomfortable when our game's supposed to be so black and white?
I mean, for me, I don't like confrontation. Like, I'll do anything I can to stay away from confrontation. So, you know, if you struggle with it, it is a gray area. I'd be much more comfortable saying to someone after they've played, you know, in the locker room, you know, having some lunch afterwards. Hey, you know, I sort of saw something on the 6th green. You know, I didn't like what I saw. Just be a little more careful with your marker or whatever it may be. And that would be my thing with, you know, if I've seen anything on tour, it's where, you know, people maybe didn't put the ball back exactly where it should be on the green, or, you know, that's where, you know, you see it once, you give them the benefit of the doubt, and it was just or, you know, if you see it more than that, it's like, hey, just, you know, be careful.
Speaking of fuel for your take, I want to bring you back to a quote from Brooks Koepka just a few months ago about the state of a potential rivalry with you. He said, hey, I've been out here for, 5 years. Rory hasn't won a major since I've been on the PGA Tour, so I just don't view it as a rivalry. Disrespectful?
Not disrespectful.
Okay.
I think, you know, and I said this at the time, we sit in these press conferences, you know, at tour events, and we all get asked about the other players. And it's as if there's no good answer. Like, you know, what do you say? What don't you say? You know, you want to, and I've been in Brooks's position before where I'm sitting up there going, well, like, you know, ask me about me. You know, don't ask me about other players. Like, this isn't, it isn't the gossip channel. It's sort of you want to sit up there and talk about your game and your feelings and your thoughts. And I mean, like, I think Brooks and I are probably sick of hearing each other's names at this point, just because it's like that's just what it's been, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's great that we're both in that conversation. We had I wouldn't call it a battle in Memphis because I didn't put up much of a fight, and then at the FedEx Cup I got one on him. But I think the game of golf, I think your biggest rival is yourself, right? You have to control yourself, and if you go out and control your thoughts and your emotions and play golf and figure out the right way to play the course, the other guys are irrelevant. It's all about you, and if you can control yourself and do the right things, it's up to other people to talk about rivalries and this and that. But Brooks is trying to do his thing, I'm trying to do mine, just as everyone else is. JT, Dustin Johnson, John Ram. I mean, there's so many great players in the world right now. I think the game's in a really good shape, and I just don't think it's about Brooks and I.
Well, let me ask you this way: do you like having someone like him around? Does it make it easier for you to spend a little extra time hitting balls when he is kind of saying, "Hey, you know what? I don't see a rivalry." Does that, I mean, the way you pumped your fist in Atlanta, it sure looked like it meant something.
It did. Of course, it meant something. It meant something to take down the #1 player in the world, for sure. It's sort of, and it goes back to, Australian Open was on last week, and I went down in 2013 and played in the Australian Open, and Adam Scott was #1 in the world, and I was able to take down him down there, and that felt really good to me. I was struggling that season, hadn't had a great year, but to be able to go up against the best player in the world at that time and beat them, that feels good. Mm-hmm. It's a validation that you're doing the right things and you're on the right path.
When you look back at all of your achievements, what would you say the significance of this year has been as you look to kickstart the next decade of your career?
Yeah, I think, I've always, especially this year, talked about, wanting to be more consistent, play well week in, week out. And I think I've done that this year, and I've sort of figured out a formula that works for me. 19 top 10s, obviously the 4 wins sprinkled in there, but just the level of golf that I played this year on a consistent basis, that's what I was most proud of.
At the beginning of the year, you made a strong decision to focus your time on the PGA Tour and to not spread yourself too thinly. Mm-hmm. It paid off, adding a Players' Championship to your resume, now a 2-time FedEx Cup champ. Why was that so important to you?
I think, I made a decision at the start of last year to base myself in America, to live here. And I think people forget I've been on tour for 12 years. And, the travel does get a little old, and I wanted to try to, reserve some of my energy for the end of the year. And, you can't keep hopping back and forth. And I just wanted to, you still travel a bit playing this game, but I just didn't want to, as you said, wear myself too thin. And, starting in the States, focusing on the PGA Tour. And then, I had a great PGA Tour season. You move over to Europe and you try to finish off the year as well as you can over there. And I think with the schedule change, it's helped a little bit. You can focus all your energy onto one tour, and then, switch over and focus on the end of the year over in Europe.
Well, you found out you were PGA Tour Player of the Year in a pretty unique fashion with Jack Nicklaus surprising you. What was that like?
It was very cool. I've gotten to know Jack, pretty well over the last few years, living at the Bears Club, practicing there, interacting with him quite a lot. And we do catch up regularly. I'll see him in the locker room. We'll have some lunch or we'll have a chat. And whenever we were called and said Jack wanted to meet and just have some lunch, I thought it might have been about we were talking about course design, and we've talked in the past about maybe doing some stuff. So then when he brought out the trophy and Jay Monaghan's there as well, I'm like, hold on a minute, this doesn't seem right. So, but it was very cool, and it was a little bit of a surprise, but to get that award from the man himself meant a lot.